Welcome viewers to this exclusive ENFRA show. We have along with us Professor A.J. Iyer, who is the author of the book ATAL SHASTRA.
Hello my dear friends, this is absolutely first on ENFRA TV for the book ATAL SHASTRA.
Professor, this ATAL SHASTRA book has been released on October 27th on the hands of the MSME Minister, Mr. Thiagarajan Singh.
Right.
And subsequently this has been today shown in the DD National at 4 p.m. Can you please elaborate on the idea behind coming out with this book on ATAL SHASTRA?
Yeah, see, we must go back to the history of, I would say, the time in 1999 when Vajpayee literally became our Prime Minister, and then there was a lot of, he had about 3 different tenures, with the country, roughly, in a period of roughly, let's say not exactly 5 years, but in fact a 13-day tenure, a 13-month tenure, and then a 4.5 years tenure. That's the way it goes, or you can say 4 year and 9 months tenure. So the 13 number was always with him.
Okay.
And incidentally, the book also has 13 chapters.
Okay.
So it is a somewhat numerology. I start with the number game is like that, And in this number game, basically what happens is those years, which we talk about, you see 1999 and go up to 2016 today, and we have not taken the 2016 time. We have written it in the time of 2016. That's me and my younger brother, late Prakash Iyer, who's no more with us, but physically, but his soul is always alive. We had conceived this book right in 2004 and 2005, when we actually wrote India Brand. So in India Brand it also, Vajpayee got a mention, and he had exited as a Prime Minister by 2004, we understand that. But luckily when 2003 the book came, we had sent the book when he was still the Prime Minister, and we got a very good response on India Brandish from him. And we ended up mentioning about him and about his policies in the book, not realizing that we will start looking at a book on Vajpayee itself. Because the whole idea in that book, you will remember, that has to go back to that entire position of, what happened in Vajpayee's era. Because I have not written these political issues because I wanted to keep the political part out, and this interview probably brings out a little bit of that. In the sense that we had the great Pramod Mahajan, who, very unfortunately died, in absolutely circumstances which were not good. But it was, he was called PM, and Pramod Mahajanji was extremely close to the Vajpayee, and was a very, very, I would say, Vajpayee simply had great love for Pramod Mahajanji, And it was like, 1 and 2, and that was the situation, and we know how Pramod Mahajan worked in the telecom sector at the time. So that was the part that Vajpayee's important part of the economy was coming and culminating with the golden coordinated success, looking at the digital India part and all those kind of things. So a lot of things were coming, and politically also, what happened, it is a very mature, running a 24-party coalition is not an easy thing in this country. So all this part, and put Vajpayee's era of running COPE, which I call it consensually operated political economy. Prakash and me always called it COPE. Coping with the situation, coping with it and giving the best. Like you see current running of the parliament, and look at the current and the running of the parliament will be 24 parties coalition. Okay, if you look at both the things, then you will definitely appreciate what Vajpayee did. And is there a similarity to Vajpayee's era? The only similarity I see is very close, which makes me actually, I put Vajpayee on the top, not for any other reason, but also for the fact that it was difficult to continue from a predecessor. And Vajpayee was the first full-term non-Congress Prime Minister of India, and he showed that there could be an alternative. So he was an inflection point, of politics and economics, because all the thing was a Congress Prime Minister, or a coalition also came before that. That is why I say there was a simile in Narasimha Rao's time. And many people would say and contend with me and saying Narasimha Rao was a better Prime Minister if you put Vajpayee. I would say it's not a question of a better Prime Minister. It's a question of a man who became Prime Minister for India for 5 years, did not have anything to undo with the previous regime, went ahead and full-fledged and did his own while keeping the old guard on. He didn't lose any momentum that Narasimha Rao gave, right? And he in fact not only picked up, leapfrogged the momentum and put India on the altar. And I can assure you that if later on we had worked on Vajpayee's plan of success, India would have been a superpower by 2012 itself. That is the miss that has happened. 8 to 10 years of miss has happened. So now we are talking of 2022. If you see everything that we are talking, including what Modi ji has picked up, it is picked up from the book where we always had 2022 in India brandished. And so Vajpayee's time period and era, and to write ATAL SHASTRA today was apt because we don't have Prakash with us, but the right time it has come. And it is put that it's a benchmark kind of, I would say, idea or a benchmark position in the current state of economics, which actually gives direction to the new leaderships, whichever it is. Right now, it is Narendra Modi ji. Tomorrow it can be anybody else. But Vajpayee's era tells you that a man with 40 years of parliamentary history, 4 decades, with being a gigantic leader of opposition, right, is what I am talking about. It is not about being a prime minister. Also, prime minister that he became, right? Yeah. But it is his gigantic parliamentary proportion of leadership and being respected by friends, foes alike. Even if you disagree with Vajpayee, you put him on the top. That makes him a phenomenal leader. But I have to also accept that he is a prime minister. Therefore, I say it is a. Therefore, I believe that we put the right word: Suvarna Shri, Sarvapriya, Bharat Ratna, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, and that is very important. Somebody who is a gold, better than gold, I would say. Then I would say everybody loves him, and they will continue to love Vajpayee's character and his demeanor. A great poet, a great philanthropist, a great, I would say, also romantic in terms of nation, and a lover of India, and also the lover of the world. Okay, so that's why I say tallest parliamentarian ever, right? And we also say at the end that a man who believed in liberalism and pluralism, because if you look at the whole picture, whatever you go through, you will find that Vajpayee was completely liberal. I have not put this in the book, but I want to tell now to the viewers so that they can take my view. When he could win his elections in Vidisha, in Madhya Pradesh, and he could have won from any other constituency, including Bhopal, he told his people that I will go and fight from Lucknow. And we were very clear that Lucknow, it is no BJP constituency that way. You know, it has a minority population which is about 70%, a majority over there. You know, and he won from Lucknow several times. And the love that he had from the people, and because he went to the extent of saying that if I don't get voted by these people, then I don't need to be there. Right. Or I don't need to be, forget about being prime minister, I don't need to be a leader. So he was a romantic, he was a poet, and he had the wisdom of looking at India very sensibly and looking at all-inclusive growth, the investment for inclusion, which we had written in India brandished, I squared, you know, which later on became Inclusive India, borrowed in the Manmohan Singh era from our definitely work of me and Prakash, surely, okay, comes into fore. And Vajpayee would have looked at our idea also, you know, many ideas which we have today, Vajpayee would have endorsed it. It is, for example, we say China and India have no way than to call ourselves Chindia. It was first written in India brandished. And it is also dedicated to Vajpayee's own philosophy of dealing with China. Because the brilliance of Vajpayee was, with one meeting and silent meeting, and so many political commentators can stand on this, that Sikkim, which the China claimed throughout their life, right, suddenly disappeared from China's maps. You know, China simply left Sikkim, and the story behind that is, it was the Silk Route, it was the business route that was opened up. Because if you want to deal with India on the business route, then there is no question of having a conflict of interest. So I think Vajpayee's politics is a very interesting study of how to run a country and at the same time create a position for a nation of negotiation in the best possible way. So he was a man who stood, he was tough. In Kargil, he showed his toughness. With Pakistan, while he was soft first, he did the Lahore Yatra, but he again became soft. But he again became hard. Because when he, after giving everything, he had to take a decision, he became strong. And then Kargil, nobody comes out. It is 5,000 people killed. You know, 3,000 soldiers and 200 jihadis. That is the kind of numbers. It is kept under the carpet. So it was a decimation in Kargil, and they came inside our territory and they were blasted out, and Pakistan was sent to where they belong to, right? So I think you will see a lot of similarities in current position. Tackling today's time, a leaf out of the chapters of Vajpayee could help Prime Minister Modi as well. And we must always look at the great relationship that even Modi shared with Vajpayee, right? So while Vajpayee had his point of views, and always he wanted certain issues to be dealt in a certain way, you know, I would say he would have, it was Vajpayee's own love and choice that Modi ji became Gujarat's chief minister. And within no time, whatever happened there is a part of history. Like there was no administrative exposure to Modi ji. There was absolutely nothing, and there was a lot of politics inside Gujarat, which I don't want to bring here while discussing ATAL Shastra. But yes, Vajpayee ji always wanted कि भाई आप राष्ट्र धर्म राज्य धर्म दोनों निभाइए, and basically Modi has only stood for that. He said, he understood what Vajpayee said. Vajpayee wanted that we must not have people fighting against each other. We must have people fighting for development. And if you look at the development economics in Gujarat, while we can criticize the model, we can do, I also many times criticize that now Gujarat is going down compared to the past. All that is a position of history. But the hard reality is, if you see the development economics that was brought in Gujarat, everybody said it can never change. Nobody thought, you know, in the Kutch earthquake and all of that post-earthquake, how it has come up, how the Narmada system has been developed, how water has gone to remote area, how a solar park was built, how the revolutions were started. A lot of that is indebtedness to Vajpayee. So Modi has simply followed Vajpayee, according to me, and ensured that he fast forwards also that. So I hope I am proved right even after this, because I believe there is no way for anybody to go out of what Vajpayee did. There is no option, and therefore inclusiveness is the fundamental idea of any politics in India. You cannot exclude any community, you cannot exclude any dharma, you cannot exclude any class, you cannot exclude any creed. But there will be correction course. Course correction is critical, tough decisions are critical, but an inclusive model of development can only sustain and permit growth of India and growth of humanity at large. That's what Vajpayee stood for. Good.
Professor, you have also predominantly focused on the political economy. That was Atal Bihari Vajpayee's wisdom and vision. Can you also, this was the key to transforming India. Can you please elaborate or explain on this?
See, they are very interesting. You know, I want to show this book. Anyway, this is ATAL Shastra. If you look at it, you know, for the viewers, it's coming up. So you can see. And then the first chapter I deal with Kargil. You know, if I want to brief, you know, for you, for the viewer. And we have talked about how it was so tough for Vajpayee ji to work, especially after the Pokhran blast. Pokhran 2 was a standpoint where US brought sanctions on India. I talked about economics, and several things have come up in the economic angle for him. And so he was a political economic prime minister, because key issues are, there are in this chapter number 2, I have brought out the period from 1991 to 2003. The access to FDI by Indian corporates, opening up the banking sector and mutual funds in the private sector, then FII entry into the debt and equity market, market-friendly interest rate regime propelled by apex banks, the Reserve Bank of India, opening up the insurance sector on the global player, 100% FDI allowed in most key sectors of Indian economy. All this you are seeing only fast-forwarding now. It was all started by Vajpayee. So there is no question that Vajpayee was the giver of the current economic model. He was the data, karta, dharta. He gave it to you. We can all claim that this happened now. No, it happened then. Now it's fast forwarding again. Narasimha Rao's little bit of work in ensuring that the economy doesn't go down, because in Narasimha Rao time there was a different thing. It was crisis management. Right. Because we had only 1 week time of 1 week worth of export earnings as our forex reserves. They were completely washed out. So we would be either a Bolivia or some Somalia or whatever we could have been. So that situation was tackled. But yes, the marks that happens, and marks go down because it was a part of the era of the way Congress looked at economics at that point of time. So they needed their own Prime Minister to clean up the act to some extent and give a level playing field. So the level playing field could not be grown because we needed growth. We did not need a level playing field. We needed a GDP growth rate. And to be very frank, Vajpayee's time saw phenomenal upheaval in the GDP growth rate. And I have also brought a very important point because I always am from the power sector. I have a great love for the power energy side. Vajpayee's dream was water and hydropower. And we have Yogendra Prasad, who has written a kind of an introductory note in this book, because foreword is written by Giriraj Singh ji. Definitely, it is his foreword. K. Ravi Kumar, former chairman of BHL, have given the view, and also Suresh Sharma ji, right, who work very closely with Indira Gandhi ji. So I have got people who work closely, and Vajpayee's 50,000 megawatt hydropower initiative, which could have completely propelled northeastern region into a superpower region, superpower bowl of India, is unexecuted. There is no movement even in this government on that. Let me be very critical of that fact. That 50,000 megawatt of hydropower initiative should be 100,000 megawatt if Modi ji has taken our plan of RASM, Rashtriya Urja Saurya Mission, which me and Prakash wrote, for minimum of 50 to 60 gigawatt, and said at least 150 gigawatt by 2032 roadmap. And then our article saying this will also only be 4.8% if it is 50 by 2022. Modi ji took that, 10% solar portfolio he has brought. Same should happen with water, because hydropower is not electricity but is water. Look at the storage projects. Look at the Bhakra-Nangal Dam. Look at the Sardar Sarovar Dam, and let's not forget, it was Pandit Nehru who said these are temples of modern India. So while I rank the Prime Ministers and I put the three Prime Ministers on the top, but I would remind that it was Nehru who said, I will be surprised if this gentleman doesn't become the next, become a Prime Minister of India. So it is not a question of how long you have been the Prime Minister, but what you did when you were the PM. So the transition point of Vajpayee's economics was, he understood water, he understood it as a lifeline, and he wanted India to have that megawatt of power. In fact, the Bhutan strategy of 10 gigawatt was actually drafted in Vajpayee's regime. And then only then it was opened up by Manmohan Singh, but the biggest mistake they did was, they didn't have any role for the private sector of both India and Bhutan. So that was the point. Only government bilateral deals will not help. At least some role for the private sector. They can't just be constructors of the project. They have also be part of the project build-up. Maybe some run-of-the-river schemes over there. So engagement of the population, benefit of the population will be right. It's not that two countries get together and just do a bilateral deal amongst the governments. Once the government established, government deals are important, but once that is established, you need to get people-to-people movement between the countries. We want to have people-to-people relationship with Pakistan. That can never happen because of a military regime and absolutely dirty trick business division of Pakistan and the terrorists and the jihadis. But yes, what is stopping you from making a people-to-people, business-to-business contact with Bhutan? That is the failure of our policies. Vajpayee would always have stood for this policy. And I hope Modi ji also taking a cue from this interview of mine and ensuring that the businessman to businessman, people to people movement between India and Bhutan, so that Bhutanese businessmen benefit, not only Indian businessmen. We must ensure that the Bhutanese businesses benefit, because large hydropower only benefit the governments of the country.
Right.
But smaller businesses, people want to start a small factory. Maybe Bhutan has got several things: wine, beer. They have also got factories related to wood, energy consumption factories. Where electricity cost is lowest in Bhutan in terms of hydropower. They export this to India, but a small portion of it, if it can go, some small fraction of it goes into funding industrial development over there, it is beneficial for India. I would be crazy. I would like to look at Surat diamond merchants going and doing diamond polishing business in Bhutan so that they can go to the rest of the world. So this is the way India's engagement has to start with Bhutan. For example, begin with Bhutan, go to Nepal, go to other areas. See, when you do trade, you actually give, and it's not just electricity trading. So right now we are looking at electricity trading as a major objective. Electricity trading should become the reason for us and reason d'etre for us to do business and transaction between small and medium enterprises of these countries. SME sector of these countries must deal with each other. We don't need to bring our large businesses into the game. We need to make marriages between smaller businesses between India, Bhutan, Nepal. So you can always decide a SAARC without Pakistan, it is great. But these countries we have to get together. We must make more friendship with Nepal. Somehow we should try to explain, and we should make more number of this kind of forays, just like we are doing with Bhutan. Bhutan, we must do more, and we need not build more hydropower. Now the time of building hydropower is enough. We have 10 gigawatt, 10 can become 12, it's fine. But more importantly, let us look at smaller businesses. They need tourism, they need hotels, investment. They are looking for money from our economy. A small set of currency goes to Bhutan, it will succeed. So Vajpayee's complete outlook on economics was what I am saying right now.
Right.
His economics was economics of engagement and politics of engagement. And that engagement is not politics of engaging the crook called Pakistan. He gave the, I would say, he gave them a olive leaf, but olive branch. But even after he gave the olive branch to Pakistan, Pakistan failed him. Nawaz Sharif stabbed him from behind. They ditched him. They did Kargil. So that was over. But he did not close the door for Bhutan. He did not close the door for. He was following the path started from the beginning. The Nehruvian path was upped. We only had Chukha, one small project. So after that, the massive number of project development. Now today, we're seeing the fruits of Puna Sanchu, Mangdechu, all developing. And of course, Manmohan Singh had no way out than to embrace this policy. So credit will go to Manmohan Singh for no reason. He never even wrote this paper on the Bhutan strategy. Bhutan strategy was started in a big way, and the paper was written, and everything drafted as an external affairs policy by Vajpayee. And remember, Vajpayee also had the best external affairs stint in the country, in Morarji government. He was the external affairs minister in the Prime Minister Morarji's regime, and 2 years of short Janata government, right, after the emergency, right. And that, remember, both Vajpayee and Narasimha Rao were excellent external affairs ministers of the country. I would also like to say that I am going to write a book on Narasimha Rao for sure, because for me he is equally good. But yes, I put Vajpayee on the number one position at this point. I have a way for Narasimha Rao, the greatest man. 17 languages he spoke. He could stand with helmet Kohl and speak in German. That's the way it was. So I'm not romanticizing. I'm just telling the story of these great prime ministers, fantastic ones and tall leaders, and the tallest of them for me remains Vajpayee. And recently one of my friends, well, he was constantly supporting Nehruji because, and he's saying, Iyer sahab, you should have put Nehru at the top. I have nothing against Pandit Nehru. I feel he was a fantastic man and a great prime minister, but he had also the head start of being the first prime minister, all the advantages. So I will look at the handicap portion. Right. And I only am looking from the economic benefit, because finally economic benefit builds political benefit and other things. And I look at how many less years and more results. Right? In a way, it is like, it's not that you are the highest wicket taker in cricket, but you are the most efficient wicket taker in cricket. And suppose I compare all of these, I will always consider Kapil Dev as a hero, because once Gavaskar famously said in cricket about Kapil Dev, ki Kapil Dev took 400 odd wickets. Yes. 400. Then I made 10,000 runs. He said Kapil made 5,000 runs. So remove my 5,000 runs. I have only made 5,000 runs. 5,000 runs divided by 400 wickets. For every 20 runs I made, Kapil Dev got me. Oh. That's the statistics Gavaskar used. And he said, therefore he is the greatest. So among all the greatest all-rounders of the world, Kapil will score above Imran Khan, about Botham, about everybody. So this is the type of analysis. I'm giving a cricket analogy here. So for me, Kapil was the greatest. And his 1983 win, Dhoni and everybody can win many World Cups. But the 83 wins, it was called Kapil and his Devils. That is the way the English labeled them. But remember how they decimated the big team. That was West Indies. And a very powerful team. So if you see a simile between that time of the Richards, Gordon Bridge, Haynes, Backers, Larry Gomes, you can go on. And definitely the great Vivian Richards and Clive Lloyd. Definitely. That team beaten by a bunch of, I would say, itsy bitsy cricketers, who were a little bit all-rounders, the Roger Pinnis, the Madan Lals, the Mohindra Amarnath, and led by a great Kapil Dev. A bunch of a very small team, not expected to do. So Vajpayee's position with the 24-party coalition is to be seen in that context, and the success as the Prime Minister. And then his leadership throughout in Parliament, even though being minority, so many things, to the extent that Indira sent him to speak on peace and disarmament to the United Nations. As the leader of the opposition, he represented the government for India's view on disarmament and nuclear. So that is the kind of, I would say, greatness, and how he crossed the barriers amongst the other presidents. Was absolutely a man who was completely respected in that manner. So starting from Nehru, going to Indira Gandhi. So I have used it not as a ranking situation with the prime ministers, but to tell the people the truth, that here was a man who was an absolutely impeccable parliament and became the Prime Minister of India, and therefore the best Prime Minister of India, because he was accepted as a global leader.
Next is Atalji faced sanctions from US post Pokhran 2.
Absolutely.
And this you have covered in the covered everything, and also the Kargil issue being the first chapter in your book.
Yeah, for sure.
Can you enlighten the audience on this key political, historical issues, basically?
Right. See, I had this dilemma while writing, There was the position of the 1971 war, and I have mentioned that in the first chapter as well. And I only feel that Indira would have been really at the top for me if the emergency was not there. If the emergency, the curtailment of freedom and the violation of the constitution, or using a kind of I would say a constitutional trick to bring emergency and curtailing the democratic rights of all the citizens, was the standpoint in which Indira lost out. Indira Gandhi would have definitely been ranked by me much higher and brought up, because Vajpayee and Indira shared a fantastic relationship, and the world is waiting for the first Prime Minister or leader. America is still waiting. We already sent the first woman Prime Minister over there, and I salute her for that, But I'm telling you, she lost out. 71 war. But that was the simile that I am talking about, conditions. Because when I'm talking about this story, which I have not written fully, because I didn't want to sound political. What happened with Indira's time is very important as well, while I talk about Vajpayee's time, because I'm connecting both. Pokhran 1 happened during Indira's time, Pokhran 2 happened during Vajpayee's time. That's the comparison. And both the time, the country that came on us was US, right? In the Indira's time, when the Mukti Vahini was fighting a battle where literally the Bangladeshis were murdered, slaughtered, raped, maimed, and completely decimated, which was the East Bengal at the time, and that was going on, right? And Pakistan was brutally killing them, Pakistani army and their state actors, non-state actors, no. India had no option than to go and intervene. And in the history of intervention, India is the real superpower nation, which had the guts to tell in Asia to go to America and UK at that point of time. And it was President Nixon. And Nixon wanted to teach a lesson to India. He sent his frigate into the Arabian Sea. And remember the history that the Russians at that point of time were not going to enter unless India acted. So this message was passed on to Indira, that if you start taking first action, then we will come and intervene. And Indira was ready that if they cross into the 70 nautical mile, the frigate, the US frigate, would have been definitely put into the Arabian Sea. They would have gone down in the sea. And news in the world would have come that whatever the 4th, 5th, 7th fleet, whatever comes here, it is down below, and India has torpedoed it. Yeah. This news Nixon did not want. And what Nixon ended up doing is, he went and gave an interview to some media, print media probably, and he called her a bitch. That was the degree of lower level. Then when he was re-questioned by BBC itself, he said, no, I didn't say bitch, I said a bitch. So whether bitch or bitch, his feelings are very clear. It is an unpalatable, unparliamentary language used against the Prime Minister of India. Right? And then later on, Indira gave a beautiful interview to the BBC, where she openly asked the BBC fellow, when the interviewer asked her that, are you not creating a World War-like situation? And her answer is, if your mother, your sister, if your closest people are simply maimed and murdered and slaughtered and even raped in front of your eyes, are you keeping quiet or what? And there was a pin drop silence for a few minutes. And she said, your silence itself is the answer, so I am doing what is right. So she was a tough leader. So no questions about it. And she took tough stand as the Prime Minister, right? But then Vajpayee did the same thing when Pokhran happened, right? In Pokhran, immediately Clinton administration. Clinton put sanctions on India. And I've always said the Democrats never favored India, unfortunately. They always worked against the interest of India, although Democrats should be closer to India, but unfortunately this happened. It's only Republican presidents who are back. For example, Manmohan Singh's only success was somehow Bush allowed freedom in the nuclear arena for him. And that resulted in the parliament for the second win for him. Otherwise, he was no way coming a second term as Prime Minister. He had already destroyed the Vajpayee movement. And 3 years he benefited from the Vajpayee movement in the first UPA 1. Yeah. And UPA 2 already, because they stalled all the Golden Quadrilateral, all the projects were stalled. So once they have stalled all the developmental projects, they worked against the interest. That's why Manmohan Singh loses badly in my books in that position. So coming back to Vajpayee, Vajpayee's Pokhran stand where he said to US that US sanctions will not matter, and within 6 months US understood that this was the biggest folly, and Clinton had no option than to eat humble pie, and India's sanctions were silently removed by both US and Europe and nobody talked. And Vajpayee, such a clever politician, did not go to the town announcing that I have defeated them in their objective. He simply thought that they are children who made mistakes. That is how he left America. So his global statesmanship and leadership was visible. That he does not pat his back after he had literally decimated the US. US found that the India-US trade was getting impacted in a big way against the US, and the balance of trade will shift towards India. Okay. In spite of the sanctions. Because what happened that US was losing out. So once US loses, US always looks at its own interests. Right. Wherever it is, its own strategic interest and geopolitical interest. So they were losing both. They were losing friendship of India, which was very critical. They knew that the rogue Pakistan would never support them in the long run, and that it's going to be the biggest trouble, because they have been feeding this Frankenstein for a long time, right? And it is this particular animal is going to create trouble. He was having the nagging feeling, but because the pressure of the political pressure of the Democrats continuously using Pakistan to control the Middle East, thinking that they will control and they will balance Russia through that process, because there is a complete anti-Russia stand there, right? Instead of finding out a way to deal with Russia, it was a military position, with NATO forces always threatening Russia and all that. So this world order, which is a Cold War scenario and post-Cold War scenario, Clinton only continued it. So Bill Clinton's era must be looked at with a little bit of a different view, and people praise Bill Clinton. He did nothing in favor of India. He only ensured that he pressurized the Prime Minister with coalition of 24 parties constantly. And who won? The man who knew how to operate in cope. That is the consensually operated political economy with 24 parties, coalition, won against the powerful United States strategy, right? And sanctions were removed. US also and Europe also went back, and nothing happened to India. India rocked with the 8%, 7 to 8% GDP growth rate. Thumbs up to Vajpayee. When he left, it was 8.4%. That came into the Manmohan era in the openings, because when he left, in spite of losing the election, the GDP went up 8.4%. That is the history that you must open up. And hydropower share, I come back, 27% hydropower share. And when this UPA government went out, our share in hydropower had come down to about 14%. Now it is triggered downwards. Unfortunately, even today, after 2 years, we are in worse situation, 10 to 12% of hydropower share. So we know Vajpayee's dreams, unfinished agendas are lying there, the water dream. And Modi ji should quickly catch this. And he should correct the hydropower scenario of India. And this environmental overactivism and environmental terrorism must end, of the Meda Patkars and the others. You know, we must catch hold of these people and put them and show them where they are placed. That is the tough decision we have to take.
In this book, Professor, you have very interestingly given some relationship between Atalji and Abdul Kalam, our past president, in chapter number 7. And in chapter number 9, you have brought out the interludes in Parliament between former Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru and Atalji. Could you elaborate the ENFRA TV audience on this relationship?
I don't want to give the detail. I want them to read the book. Okay. Right? I would love them to read the book, because I have spoken a lot right now. So, but yes, I would mention, you know, Prime Minister Nehru had a great love for Vajpayee, and Vajpayee was seen as a man who Panditji felt he would be surprised that if he doesn't become the Prime Minister of India. So that is the kind of respect he had for Atal Bihari Vajpayee, and as a youngster, right? And history has proven that Nehru was prophetic in his views on Vajpayee, and Vajpayee became the Prime Minister of India for sure, right? But he was the tallest parliamentarian, according to me, because what he achieved as a parliamentarian would be even bigger than being a Prime Minister, I'm sure. But yes, I would say best Prime Minister even now, because that parliamentary experience he transposed off towards the leadership when he got the opportunity. And he was not the Prime Minister of only his NDA government. He was the NDA government chosen Prime Minister by the people of India, but he was the Prime Minister of India in real sense. He did everything that an average Indian could benefit from his golden quadrilateral movement. You know, because of today all this infrastructure thanks to him. Like I write in the first book, and I clearly talk about all these things, you know, in the first chapter also. And I always held the view that Vajpayee's developmental economics benefited India, which is the most important key. So the relationship between him and Nehru was fantastic, and one relationship which cannot go is a very important chapter, that is Abdul Kalam and him. We had the best septuagenarians, and both of them were the we have never got a Prime Minister President combination like Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam and Atal Bihari Vajpayee. And that is historical. That position will never come back probably, and if it comes back I'll be happy. You know, we see the combination of Pranab and you know, Modi also, but still the Vajpayee, this combination remains my strongest combination. I want to see you know, that coming in, you know, because Kalam was a great guy. Kalam was who would have imagined a scientist and an India lover? And you look at what happened. Nehruji's time was considered to be a children lover of children, Chacha Nehru and all that, right? Fine. Right. 14, we still celebrate as the Children's Day, all that. But look at what Kalam has done. Kalam has taken the cube, and he is the modern day lover of children. And he wants scientific temper, knowledge and freedom for children to learn. He is the man who unleashes the power of freedom to young kids. Okay, and no, he put the role of the president and ensured that the scientific temper, the interest and inquisitiveness, and developing their own talent and realizing their dreams and completely go passionately towards their dreams. That's what he encouraged young kids for. So where is the better option for India than motivating every kid in this country and even in this planet later on, you know, using Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam's moves, you know. So he deserves a book in the future from me, for sure. Because I would love to see Kalam as a true Indian, you know. There's nobody who can represent India and India's love like Abdul Kalam, you know. Of course, in some areas I do not agree with him, but that disagreement is fine. Like I do not agree with the Pura providing urban elementary rural area, because I believe that what they are doing in urbanization, that is what we have written in India Brandished, and also we have mentioned this in this book, which is called you know, RELSI, that is Remote Location of Strategic Infrastructure Industry, which is what Modi is looking at. And if he is achieving that, then he is achieving a Vajpayee dream. Right. So a lot of today's time will also have a connect with Vajpayee's era. Whatever we are doing, we are only carrying forward what Vajpayee ji left for us, you know, at that point of time, economically and politically, for sure. Because every good economic decision turns out to be a good political decision, and vice versa. So without impacting people economically, there is no good politics. Yep. That people must understand. Right. That is the Vajpayee economics.
Okay, in this book, in the chapter 3rd, you have taken a strong view on the Manmohan Singh era.
Yes.
And its deficiency.
Yep.
Also, you have brought out not only the fact of the golden quadrilateral, but also the upheaval of the rural economy under Atalji's, under the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana.
Absolutely right.
You mentioned that digital India prospered under him, but at the same time, you have given credit to our former Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi.
For sure.
Can you please elaborate on this to our viewers?
Yes, very important. See, let us understand that while the book is on Vajpayee, it also talks about a little bit of the past. So I would always, I always feel that Rajiv Gandhi needs a mention everywhere where I go, because if his life was not cut short through a dastardly terrorist act, you know, and he was brutally murdered by and assassinated by terrorists, okay, down south, you know, and if that not happened, the course of the Indian history could be very different, because we would have seen mature and understanding and I would say a man who helped India grow in the automotive sector also subsequently, and also telecommunication when he really brought a lot of movement, So his lot of key people with him were there who actually did a lot of work, I would say, fine, people like P.S. Deodar, who were advisors to Rajiv Gandhi. They did fantastic work. And at the same time, Rajiv Gandhi also got benefited from the fact that he understood that what he need to do for India, just like Vajpayee, because he felt that he can't do much, because once he mentioned that I send you, 100 rupees, but you receive only about a fraction of that, Basically, he was very worried about the kind of inefficiency in the bureaucracy and the kind of corruption that prevailed. He was the first man who put up the flag of corruption up, for the country. But then he knew that he could not stop this instantly, but surely he could do something for the India. So he worked on the telecommunication area, and he laid the first framework, which Vajpayee fast forwarded for the digital and wired village economy. Today's Digital India theme is nothing but a copybook lift, and which is nothing wrong what Modi is doing. Digital India was the vision and wisdom of Atal Bihari Vajpayee. He was the architect of that vision and wisdom, and he fast forwarded, and 100% full credit that he continued forward from where Rajiv Gandhi left. So to be fair to Rajiv Gandhi, it was started by Rajiv Gandhi. The foundation was laid through the telecommunication process. The IT process started, and convergence of the telecom and IT began and completely sealed. And we know Pramod Mahajan was involved in that, right? In the movement, Yeah. So that time, so nobody, and we remember Devang Mehta of NASSCOM. I must mention, which I did not mention in the book for sure, but because it's not a book on Devang Mehta, but NASSCOM's Devang Mehta and the birth of NASSCOM was happening at that time, right? And it grew at that time, right? And unfortunately, Devang Mehta also died in very mysterious circumstances in that time, and we lost a great wisdom man in the telecom and IT sector. So NASSCOM was the organization that was given by him to the country, and this is the way we look at it. We look at the times, and always when there are good prime ministers and great prime ministers, some great people come along with it and they do their work. So that is very important. And let's go back to Pandit Nehru. Unfortunately, if he was not the first prime minister of India, my ranking would be even much higher for him. That part people disagree, agree is fine. But I want to give him full credit. The hand-picked way in which he brought Homi Jahangir Baba, it was a genius of a step. Only an intuitive genius can do it. So there was intuitive genius in Vajpayee of the greatest kind in this way. The way he looked at intuitiveness, and his genius of intuitiveness was also visible when Vajpayee was there. So handpicked, Nehruji handpicked him. And the same way he handpicked Vikram Sarabhai for upping the anti-IT road. But look at it, look at the whole thing. Both these gentlemen never got Bharat Ratna. So we do this, this is the way we deal with the situation. Even today they don't have the Bharat Ratna.
The next is definitely you have the icing on the cake for this book. On this book basically is you have taken your take on that is the best prime ministers of India, not as a chapter included in this book, rather it has been taken as a separate section, and the note especially on the former prime ministers of India, the Narasimha Rao
it's an extension
and
of
Rajiv Gandhi,
absolutely,
during the period of 1947 till 2014. Your views on this?
Yeah, my views are very clear. I just said we're continuing on the same topic. See, I call them the podium finish prime ministers, right? That is 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
When you have podium finish on a certain day or a certain time or a certain evaluation, you put one prime minister up, right? So that's what I have done. So my choice is Vajpayee, number 1. Number 2, I put Narasimha Rao. Number 3 is Rajiv Gandhi. Right now in that order. But I am saying, I've already told in my interview, that if Rajiv's life was not lost, history would have been different, for sure, right? We did not have the opportunity. Even, in fact, I have not mentioned even Pramod Mahajan's issue, but if Pramod Mahajan was alive, would the history be different? It's a very interesting question, right? Which can come in, and it could ruffle a lot of feathers when I talk about this. But the reality is, that man was brilliant, right? That man was extraordinary, and he was acceptable to both the his own party and the opposition. So these are the issues, that ifs and buts issues. So I can't live on an if and but. Real life is destiny. right? Destiny brings people up also. Destiny plays a role. So today's destiny and time brought Vajpayee up. So I had to put Vajpayee up for what he did. Very fairly. So I assess that. And my position as a writer with my own freedom and independence is Vajpayee is number 1 for me. A very close number 2 with 19-20 kind of situation, right, is Narasimha Rao. That's why he deserves a book. Surely I would end up writing a 3rd book on none other than Rajiv Gandhi. He was a fantastic youth leader. So for me, when I talk about podium finish, I have currently dedicated this book to Vajpayee, but I would equally dedicate a book to, I would love to do that for Narasimha Rao for sure, because he was the South of India Prime Minister, which today you see the South of India factor is working on India. The GDP factor of India, when I say South of India, so I should add the entire Vindhyachal and South, because the Dakhan. That means Maharashtra, Gujarat, Goa, and the southern states now, more numbers are there, because Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, these states are there, and also the Goa, because Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Telangana, Andhra, this entire periphery, and the Goa, right, and this whole Western Ghat scenario, including Maharashtra, and on the other side we have the great coastal powerhouse of Gujarat. These together states today almost account for 60% of India's GDP.
Okay.
Because they move the train, and that's what. And you look at any angle. So a Prime Minister coming from this belt is very important. And incidentally, if you see Modi, he comes from Gujarat. So after Narasimha Rao, it is Prime Minister Modi who has come from that belt. Vajpayee also belongs to the northern belt. He belongs literally to the UP belt, and MP belt. His origin would be UP MP. So I know that is the belt from where it's difficult for a Prime Minister to do justice to his own population. So he remains number 1. But a fantastic number 2 is none other than Narasimha Rao. And I'm telling you a very fantastic number 3. If history had given time, if destiny had given time, my book would have been definitely interesting. My choice would have been definitely interesting. But yes, I consider all 3 in their own rights did fantastic work. And when I say podium finish is equal or equivalent, one man has to be given the gold, one man has to be given the silver, and one man or woman has to be given the bronze. And that's what I did. That doesn't also demean the other Prime Minister, put them down. It's a choice that we have to make, and that I have made as an author, a writer. And again I come back. My disappointment was Prime Minister Manmohan Singh for sure. Although he appears in my top 10, in the ranking in the last, he does appear, and his position is basically, if you see, it's like this 1, 2, because 6th is, first is Prime Minister Vajpayee, Narasimha Rao, Rajiv Gandhi ji, then Indira number 4, Nehru ji as number 5, Lal Bahadur Shastri as number 6, and number 7 is Manmohan. Then you get 8, Morarji Desai, I.K. Gujral as 9th, and H.D. Devagowda as 10. The others, after the 10th, I have not mentioned here, right?
Yep.
So basically, he goes to number 7, and history will prove me right. And I am not the loner. Sanjay Baru ended up writing his 2nd book, first the accidental Prime Minister, and he wrote about that period of 1990 as the great period, and that he gave marks to Narasimha Rao, and almost probably Baru would go and say Narasimha Rao was the best Prime Minister. But I want to say no, there was a lot of corruption, there were a lot of things he could not stop, he had his own limitations, and I was a very lucky man. I must tell this viewers here that I had a young friend of mine in my RSC Kurukshetra days in Haryana. In Kurukshetra is the place where Dharmakshetra we say the Mahabharata happened. And in literally my 3rd year of engineering, we were given cubicles, which are individual, I would say, apartments, and with connectivity. So 1 cubicle and 2 cubicle will have a common balcony. So I was asked by my warden that time, one Mr. R.S. Sharma, that you take a student not from your own, because I came from Faridabad in Haryana, because I was coming from there as a Haryana student. So he wanted me to take somebody from other place and who not from my branch of mechanical engineering. So I took a friend of mine whom I encountered there from Mandya district in Karnataka, and his name was Ramesh Kempaiah, and his father was the secretary on Mr. Kemp, Ministry of Water Resources, and Narasimha Rao was then the Minister of Water Resources. And I don't want to go beyond this because I know it's too much, right? I don't want say where Ramesh is and what has happened. That's all history. But I can only tell you that this young boy had the problem of being a stepchild because his father had remarried. And the stepmother was not treating him well. That situation was there. On the other side, his father would come to the hostel, sit with me for a long time because he found that his son was under duress but still controlled, was weak in studies, and that's the reason I took him, so that he can improve his stuff. He was together. But a lot of stories, and his father could never spell my first name Gopalakrishnan, he used to call me Ramakrishna. So he'll say Ramakrishna, this is what it is, Ramakrishna, that is what it is, that's what Rao says. So it's so close to Narasimha Rao ji that so many of Narasimha Rao's stories have been told to me. So this is history. And I also want to say one more story. When I was in Faridabad as a child, we used to go to the Dasara Maidan, in Faridabad.
Yeah.
But we used to run, literally me and one more Punjabi boy, Vicky. We will run without chappals, nothing in our feet, and we'll go. And that Ramlila Maidan was the Maidan where you will actually have Ravana and all this burnt at the end, But that was also used as a political place where all the speeches used to happen. So Indira Gandhi will come and we will go to hear the speech of Indira Gandhi first, But then, more importantly, is the next one. After Indira is gone, the next chopper will come, and it will take 2 or 3 hours also. We'll wait there in the dungeons, literally in the trenches, because the ground was not clean. It was trenches and up, trenches and up. You could not stand straight in those days. So there we would go and hide ourselves as kids, so that the security does not take us out, and we'll be there. Security sometimes used to see us, then they'll say, we are waiting for whom? I would say, हमको वाजपेयी जी का सुनना है. अच्छा बेटा तुम बैठो ऊपर मत आओ. That's the way the security will protect us. And when Vajpayee ji comes, we were very short and we'll see all the crowd. We can be subject to stampede as well. But through those, we will actually separate the legs and dhotis of the Haryanvi Jats and tell them, Tau, tanne mande thoda dekhne de. Vajpayee ji ne dekhne de. That's the way. We'll pull it and see Vajpayee ji giving the speech. And so much of passion we had to hear him. So it's not a question of, that time we were very young. We were not even voting age. We were teenagers in the early stage. So we loved Vajpayee even then. So in our minds, the way Vajpayee is etched as a youngster, irrespective of anything, he was also always a man loved. And in opposition or anything, he was loved. Right? So that remains, that impression from that day till now has not changed. We've only seen it grow. The love has only expanded. So he has left something extraordinary for all of us. And he is a great human being. And that is more important. He was a great humanist and a fantastic human being. And we had such a human being as the Prime Minister of India. So we must be very proud that we gave one of the best in the world. And he would he will stand tall any moment in history, any moment in time. His speeches on disarmament in United Nations remain an example to date for people to follow. And he spoke in the national language Hindi. He loved Hindi so much. And his poetry, he was an impeccable poet. I would say he would fall in the category of the great poets of the Hindi world. There could be no match point to that. So his character, his personality, his contribution is always going to remain at the top of the impression till the lives of people like us go on in this planet. So with that, I want to say, that's the love we carry. The love, the passion will have a little bit marginal, I would say, good bias, not a bad bias. So that good bias has been implemented. So you must take me as an author there, and you can continue to disagree and agree with me. It's fine. But that's what it is. ATAL Shastra. And that is what it has come out. And this book is a must read, I would say. Please read the book. Then make your judgments on whatever it is. But you will love to read about a Prime Minister. Those portions on economics and politics of the Prime Minister Vajpayee will help all of us in today.
My last question in this brief interview on ATAL Shastra will be that you have compared Prime Ministers up to 2014. So your take of Narendra Modi, the present Prime Minister, including the demonetization issue and Pak policy, as viewers would be enlightened by your...
Yeah, good. See, it's a good time. The book was completed and 27th, we were going to launch on 29th of September. You remember? Yeah. Then we postponed it because some kind of fate and destiny, and I've written in the book also chapter how that got postponed. Because 29th was the surgical strike on Pakistan. 29th September was the day. So that is the day the book was to be launched. So what a destiny's child this book is also. Atal Shastra is also a destiny's child. It's waiting. Then we didn't want to wait till the birthday of Vajpayee. We wanted to give a different date so that it has its own ingenuity and time. And the timing was perfect. 27th October it was launched. And we had none other than Giriraj Singh Ji launching the book for us. And we had Yogendra Prasad on the dais. They are all doyens, And we had a man like Ravi Kumar, who I would say is the mascot of Make in India. So if Modi ji wants the mascot, it is there with us, with our bodies like inertia and REPA and all that which we run, on the energy side, right? And also the Marconomy Foundation, because that's where we have the Economy Foundation. So we are doing all that, so that comes from there. And definitely I would say that to comment on a Prime Minister who is there is not my job. I would say I would take a complete this thing on Prime Minister Modi after he has left the chair. While he is in the chair, I don't feel that it is right of me to make a judgment on him amongst the Prime Minister. So it was therefore stopped up to 2014 because Manmohan Singh era had ended and I had every reason to compound or complete my book at that point of time, right? So it's very clear that it will only compare Prime Ministers who have actually left the chair, and it is very fair to make a commentary on them because I would respect the chair of the PM when the PM is there. So I would say let him continue. Of course, in my early chapters, if you see chapter 1, chapter 2, there is mention of Mr. Modi, Narendra Modi ji, and it talks about how Modi ji and Vajpayee also, if you see, there's a wonderful photo of Modi ji and Vajpayee. It's a wonderful photo in the page number 33, and chapter number 3. It's a beautiful picture of Prime Minister Modi and Vajpayee, right? And this picture is very, very critical, So this is the great picture. So basically, I've also written about how the relationship between Vajpayee and Modi ji also impacts Modi's own governance, Modi's own working style, Modi's own thinking. Yes, but there will be evolution of Narendra Modi himself as the Prime Minister, sure, which is already visible, right? But yes, where is the standpoint from where he takes off? He takes off all his motivation from the first non-Congress Prime Minister completing his full term of India, called Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who remains Swarnashri Sarvapriya Bharat Ratna Atal Bihari Vajpayee for us.
Thank you, Professor, for these wonderful views on the book Atal Shastra.
My last take to the viewer is very clear here. Basically, this was my best way to pay a tribute to a great man, and also tribute to my late brother, Shri A. Prakash Iyer, because there are chapters on him. He was a personality beyond compare. He himself was, I would say he was in a disability mode, because when he was a 10-month child, he got hit with polio of the acute kind, where he completely had debilitated lower limbs. And the way he developed himself into a great persona, supporting all the power sector, infrastructure sector, into absolutely my partner and soulmate in publishing, a great friend and ally, and succeeded in doing this. In a way, this book is a culmination of our Jugalbandi also, because this was the last piece of work which was remaining between us. Unfortunately, I couldn't complete this when he was there. He always said that usko baad mein kar le, koi baat nahi. Because he said, you are the only man who can take this forward. Because on the Vajpayee issue, a lot of things he felt that I should take the lead. Because in the book called India Brandished, we had done a lot of work together as well. And we will see a lot of color of Prakash in that. But I'm telling you, the more I have lost him physically, the more color of Prakash and his soul will be seen when I write in this book. Because now I see his soul and my soul together. And that is the wisdom. And Vajpayee ji loved. He sent a letter through his emissary, in the PMO, and inquired about the health of both Prakash and me. That's the love Vajpayee ji had. Not only about the book, India Brandished, but he inquired about the health of Prakash, So he's no more. We lost him on 29 December 2015, right? And that will be celebrated every year as a Prakash Divas. And this year we will be having our inertia awards dedicated to him on 29 December 2016. the Prakash Divas. So this is an enlightening book. So Prakash's enlightenment comes, and the mascot of enlightenment is none other than Atal Bihari Vajpayee. With that, I say goodbye to my viewers on ENFRA TV. We'll come up with something else later on, but this is an exclusive on Atal Bihari Vajpayee, our tribute to him through Atal Shastra.
Thank you, Professor.